TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then News. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.
Welcome back from the timeout. This is the second segment of Core Digest today. And in this segment, we will be looking at the 2015 general elections, the furore over 30,000 additional polling units by the Independent National Electoral Commission. And today we're opportune to have in the studio the resident electoral commissioner at Lagos State, Adekunle Ogunmola. Sir, you're welcome to Core Digest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. First of all, let's look at it this way to start with. What is the necessity of creating this 30,000 additional polling units?
Thank you very much. It was based on the fact that so many settlements, new settlements, emerging settlements, don't have polling units. The present number, the current number, I mean, the polling units were established several years ago, and it is the responsibility of INEC to regularly revise the polling units as it deems fit. I must say that in Lagos State, for example, since I came in 2010, there had been a lot of agitation for the creation of additional polling units, based on the fact that some registered voters in some places are well over 1,000. Again, there are some settlements that are just emerging, and there's need for those people to be taken care of. The intention of INEC is to ensure that in urban centers, the longest distance should be 1 kilometer to the polling unit. Okay. And we discovered that in Alimosho, for example, in some areas that are settlements that are just emerging, the distance is about 15 kilometers. And because of this, INEC felt it was necessary for more polling units to be created. But beyond that, when you take into consideration the time allowed for election, elections must be concluded in just 1 day. If it is for gubernatorial election, 1 day, presidential 1 day. And because of this, there is need for us to conclude the election on time so that the counting and collation will be done. That is the reason why, in the wisdom of INEC in 2011 elections, when we had more than 300 voters, we created what we called voting points within that polling unit. So, in a place that had about 1,000 people, we had 3 voting points there, with our officials at those points.
So those ones are not polling units?
They are not polling units, but they are voting points within a polling unit. Okay. And we felt that, in fact, we would have done it before 2011, but when we came on board in 2010, there were too many things on our hands for us to deal with. And so we felt adding creation of additional polling units at that time would have been too much. And since 2011 to 2015 is about 4 years, and that is there's ample opportunity for us to be able to deal with that. So we're initially thinking of maybe dealing with the delineation of constituencies before the creation of polling units. But since that is not feasible, that is the reason why they've come up with the creation of additional polling units, to bring the polling units closer to the people.
Okay, the main aim is to make the polling units closer to the voters.
Exactly.
Actually, now there has been a lot of an outrage, furore, statements, people coming out to say it was not properly done. It is done in favor of one side or over the other. Now, how will you defend those allegations coming from different sections of the country?
Thank you very much. That is not unexpected, bearing in mind the seeming lopsidedness in the figure between North and South. And that is because in this country, we read a lot of meanings into the action of agencies. I want to say that if we are to delineate constituencies in Lagos State, there's need for it, especially in Lagos State, because Alimosho local government that had a population of 1.25 million in the last census has just one constituency, that is one House of Representative member allocated to it, where you have Lagos Island having two with less than 300,000 people. If we decide to draw the boundaries, people will still complain for various reasons. But with regard to the creation of 30,000 polling units, what was done was to simply divide the number of registered voters with a figure of 500, making 500 the maximum number of voters in a particular polling unit.
Okay, so now
and that will give you
every polling unit should have 500 voters.
Yes, maximum.
Okay.
And that should give you 150,000 polling units. That is, if you divide 73.5 or 74 million with 500,
with that 500,
it will give you 150,000. And during the 2011 elections, we had 120,000, meaning that there's need for additional 30,000. So simply put, if we divided the total number of registered voters by with 500, all we need to do to get a number that should be in any particular state will be to divide the number of registered voters with 500
in that state,
and that will give you the figure. And that is what has been done.
Okay, now some people have still said they are not comfortable with that. Now there are others who make a statement that what INEC has done was to just tell people outrightly that there are more voters in the northern part of the country than in the southern part of the country, and that was why about 70% of the additional polling units went to the north.
Well, I must say that additional polling units would not mean that more people will vote. What it only means is that
there are more registered voters.
No, not really. For instance, Lagos State has been given a figure of, I think, about 2,450 additional polling units to make it about 11,000 plus from the previous 8,450. But you have some states that the distribution, the population distribution, is not quite even, right? And that means that if you have a place that had 50 voters in a particular polling unit, another place you have 100 voters, meaning that those polling units do not have the maximum of 500, right?
But what is the minimum?
No, there's no minimum.
For a polling unit?
There's no minimum for a polling unit. What we take into consideration is distance
Okay.
right, to make it convenient for people. We want to ensure that as many people as possible come out to vote. And that is why we want to bring polling units very close to the voters.
And if you look at the explanation of dividing the number in the state from the registered voters with 500,
Yeah.
and then having that number of polling units, now isn't that the basis where which these acrimonies are coming from? That you mean to tell us that there are more people who are likely to vote in the north than in the south?
No, it doesn't matter. What it really means is you check the figure as released in 2011 for each state, and you divide by 500. If it does not, and you discover that in almost all the states, the figure given will be a little bit lower than the estimated figure. So if you really do the calculation, I'm not saying that it is the best thing to do. I'm only saying that that's the justification of INEC for having those figures.
Okay, now we see that the Southeast PDP actually were the first to go crying foul when this was released. And a statement here by Lisa Methu says, "We view it as a great disservice to the unity and progress of this country if the entire South will have 8,000 polling booths and the North will have 21,000 polling booths."
Well, it's unfortunate. That is the...
8 against 21,000.
Well, all the arguments for and against will be taken up by INEC, and they will give it due consideration.
Now, isn't that a lopsidedness?
Well, maybe what we should first of all look at will be the figure, the distribution before the additional 30,000, right?
Okay, yeah, the existing one.
Yes.
For this. So
you now compare with what we now have.
Okay, so what was the existing?
Well, like I told you, that of Lagos State, I know of Lagos State, for example, we had 8,465 in 2011. In fact, in 2011, we still added 355 that we called satellite units that were appendages to existing polling units, so that if you have more than 1,000 in a polling unit, they will be able to vote and conclude voting within a short time by having the satellite units very close to the original polling unit. But it will just be, they will just be appendages to the original polling unit, so that all the votes will be counted together for that one polling unit. Yeah. But now, instead of having satellite units, we want to have polling units that will not be appendages.
Yeah, independent polling
Yes,
units.
independent polling units.
So the votes will not have to be merged with other places.
Yeah.
Now, let me take you back a little bit. Looking at the figure, like you said, before this 30,000 was added. Yeah. Now, can we have a likely percentage? Was that disparity still there before the addition, or it came after the addition?
Well, I think what happened was that the polling units were created ever before we came on board. When we did the registration in 2011, we came up with the figures that totaled 74 million. And each state had its own record of number of eligible voters. What has been done is, to just do exactly what we did to the total figure. Divide the total figure for the country by 500. With that, you get the total number of polling units that we should have based on 500 maximum per polling unit. Right? After doing that, you now do the same for each state based on the figure recorded in the last registration exercise. So that is all that has been done.
So you cannot categorically say if the North has more than the South even before this additional 30,000.
Well,
because if it was been existing that the North had more than the South, then we'll say there is no basis for crying out.
Well, I think I'm not very sure of that. But that is another way of looking at the authenticity of the argument, whether it is right to argue for or against. That's a way of looking at it. But I know that that is the yardstick that was used. Just mere simple mathematics. That was what was done.
All right. Since we can't get to the original figure to compare with this one,
No.
now we can begin to let's move a little bit away from that, and let's look at the permanent voters card.
Yeah.
Now, why is it so important that we have the permanent voters card? Because it has been an issue and an outcry. Even in the recent elections INEC held, the permanent voters card has become a very major issue. Why was it so important to have a permanent voters card?
Yeah, thank you very much. We would have loved to have the permanent voters cards even before the 2011 elections. But like I said, when the new commission came on board, it hit the ground running. And because of that, we didn't have much time to deal with a lot of things that we would have wanted to deal with. The issue of permanent voters card, I think, is one of the ways that INEC is trying to use to prevent perpetration of irregularities. In 2010, when the new commission came on board, it commissioned a study, and it was discovered that there are about 87 ways of perpetrating irregularities during elections.
87?
Yes. And since then, INEC has been trying to block all those ways. Substantially, we have blocked almost all of those.
87?
Yes.
That's quite a huge number.
Exactly. And the issue of permanent voters card is to just ensure that the person that is holding the card is the rightful owner. Because that card is just like the ATM that you insert in the ATM card, that you insert and it brings out the information within the card. So also the permanent voters card has chips inside it that has taken the about data of the owner together with the fingerprints, so that when it is in Ekiti and Osun, it was just presented and people were accredited. But in 2015, we are going to make use of card readers. The card will be swiped on the card reader, and the card reader will provide the information contained in that card. Beyond that, the person will be expected to have his thumbprint taken by the card reader, and the card reader will now inform everybody that this is the rightful owner. Or if it's not the rightful owner, it will so say. I mean, it will so say. So that's a way of ensuring that the people that have cards are the ones that vote, that will vote during the election.
Okay, but one of the allegations that put forth by some politicians during the Ekiti elections and also the Osun elections was that those cards were used to favor a particular side in those elections. So you were saying the cards were meant to block irregularities in elections.
You know, and we only hope that politicians will mature to the level where they will be able to tell the truth to the public. In Ekiti State, we had the comments from politicians. In Osun, a different comment. Does that mean that the favor we give out to people is at our own discretion? That is, if it is Ekiti, let us favor one party. If it is Osun, let us favor another party. That is not possible. So what we do, what we expect is that the do or die attitude should be removed from the body politic of this country. They should accept the results when they know within their hearts that the results are authentic. We have done everything to ensure that we give all politicians, all political parties a level playing ground. And look at the way we have been conducting elections. In each polling unit, you carry out accreditation, you count the number of people that have been accredited when it is time for voting. You announce to the hearing of everybody that you count from one to the last person. After that, they commence voting. At the end of voting, you count and you announce the results. Nobody prevents anybody from video recording the presiding officer as he announces the result. After that, he will give each party agent a copy of the result. And finally, he will paste a copy of the result on the board at that polling unit. Like I do know, political parties also collect their own result on their own. As soon as they finish in the polling unit, they take the result to their own polling unit or to phone them to tell them the results. So it is, to my mind, that is the only way they can get rid of rigging, because that will tell them that if there's any difference between what has been given to them and what INEC will be collating at any collation center, they'll be able to raise objection. And beyond that, they'll be able to prepare their case, which will be very easy to win.
Okay, there was this insinuations that the card is being hoarded by INEC itself to prevent the rightful owners from getting them, especially in areas where they think to favor. And how could you defend INEC on that?
That allegation is for Ekiti or Osun or preparatory to 2015. If it is preparatory to 2015, the intention of INEC is to ensure that all eligible voters have the permanent voters card. And that is why immediately after distribution of the permanent voters card, and you know that your name is not on the board, your permanent voters card has not been produced, then the continuous voter registration will follow about 3 days after the distribution of the permanent voters cards at the polling units. But that is not the end of the distribution. It is the end of distribution at the polling units. But eligible voters who have not collected theirs have the right to go to the local government office and collect their permanent voters card. So it's an ongoing process. And it will continue like that, I think, to my mind, throughout this year, until maybe December or thereabout. And that is to enable us to have a complete list of those that have collected the permanent voters card. Because that is another way of preventing irregularity.
Now, looking at the distribution so far, and so many areas, states, and polling units are yet to get their permanent vote. Isn't it late before the 2015 general elections?
No, it's not late. What we want to ensure is that before we close our shop, every eligible voter will have collected his or her permanent voters card.
Now, how will INEC tend to achieve that? Looking at how many months left for people to get that?
No, it's very simple.
Keeping in mind that there are others that will not have theirs and will want, like you said, will have to go through the process again.
It's a very simple thing, because we now print the cards locally. We have the capacity to print them locally. And that is to ensure that those, for instance, the third phase of distribution will commence in, I think, October. We are yet to have the dates. Everything that will be done after the distribution and the continuous voter registration will be the printing of the permanent voters cards for those that will be registered during the continuous voter registration. And there will be ample opportunity for us to know whether everybody has been issued with permanent voters card or not. And there will be time for us also to make sure that those people collect their permanent voters card. I want to give that assurance.
Now, talking about the issue of time, let me take a complaint here by Juan Aremu. Okay. Aremu says, if the 2015 election is a few months away and INEC is just distributing PVCs, the permanent voter cards, then there is a serious problem. How are they going to speed up the process to enable the distribution? My concern is that even the ones that were used in Ekiti and Osun states were nothing to write home about.
Well, I don't know what the person means by nothing to write home about, but I have it on record that with the available permanent voters cards in Ekiti and Osun, only a percentage was collected. It wasn't 100% collection. So it means people right now are still collecting their permanent voters card. So it is not the fault of INEC. We want to ensure that we encourage people.
Whose fault is it when people don't collect their permanent voters card?
Well, that is the fault of the voters, the person. And again, we feel that the political parties should be up and doing, right? They are the ones looking for votes. They should encourage people to collect their permanent voters card.
Now, this brings into contention the issue of voter education.
Yeah.
Because collecting permanent voter cards is also, like you are saying now, is underlining the issue of getting the voters educated enough.
In fact, we now have a robust plan for educating the people. And that started with the constitution of a committee known as the National Intelligence Advisory Committee on Voter Education and Publicity at the national level. It has been replicated at the state level, and we are doing the same at the local government levels. We have in the committee representatives of organizations that are relevant to voter education and publicity. And a lot of people are showing interest in that direction. For instance, in Lagos State, by the time we start the voter education and enlightenment proper, we are going to get to the nooks and crannies of Lagos State. And beyond that, a lot of interest groups in Lagos, like market women, market organizations, women organizations, have indicated their preparedness to assist us in this direction. And we are prepared to collaborate with so many organizations to achieve this objective. Because apart from educating them on the importance of collecting the permanent voters card, the importance of taking part in the election, we also want to educate them on what they need to make informed decisions when it comes to casting their votes.
Okay. Now, you talked about INEC having the capacity to print those cards locally.
Yes.
Now, when you talk about locally, how do you mean? Locally at the federal level, at the local and the polling unit level?
No, it's at the federal level. In the office there, we have acquired the capacity for that. And I mean, to what I would call supplementary production, so that we do not have to go to the original printers when it comes to just minor production.
No, isn't there going to be a disparity?
No, it's the same technology that will be used.
No, but there's still going to be a difference between what is produced by the company you contracted it out and the one you produce yourselves.
There's no difference.
Now, how do you marry the two?
That is the basis of the collaboration between INEC and the people that are producing it.
Now, let's look at this issue. One fundamental issue that came up in the Osun election is also the inability of thousands of voters to collect their permanent voters card. And some political parties then argued that the serial number of those cards should be made public so that people will know, okay, these cards have not been collected and no one uses them to rig elections. And how is INEC going to take care of that?
No, that one will not be necessary, because if you ask people that went to observe the elections in Ekiti and Osun, what we did was to ensure that in each polling unit there were 2 registers. One is the electronic register. The other one is the register of or the list of people that have collected the permanent voters card, because they are expected to turn prints after collection, right? So that we know the number in a polling unit, that are the number of people that have collected in a polling unit, So you don't expect the number of voters to be more than the number that I've collected. So that is another angle to it. So it's not the issue of having uncollected permanent voters cards getting into wrong hands. No.
Now, how effective is the permanent voters card to the credibility of future elections?
That is what I said earlier on, that in
And
2015,
the effectiveness of it.
yes, the effective, in 2015, we are going to make use of card readers. The card readers will will present the information about the voter to determine whether it's the authentic owner or not.
Now, you've explained this usage of this card reader. Isn't it going to slow down the process?
It's going to make it faster. It's going to make it faster because, you know, once you swipe it, it gives you the information straight that the person is accredited and goes away. And again, it is possible to have simultaneous accreditation and voting.
Simultaneous?
Yes.
Now we have them running independently, and there are outcries. So what happens when they happen?
No, what that means is that, you see, all these problems that people are crying about is because some people are not alive to their responsibilities. In each polling unit, you are supposed to have party agents there. In fact, INEC has suffered to train party agents of the various political parties. The party agents are there to ensure that only eligible voters vote, right? So if the machine tells you this person is not the rightful owner, then you should not vote. I think you get my point. So that person should not vote. So when you have, the card reader has been used in a country like Ghana, and the shortcomings have been factored into our own preparation to ensure that we have a issue-free exercise.
Now let's look at a scenario. Let me paint a scenario here and see the solution that you will give.
Yeah.
Now I come to the polling unit with my card reader. My picture, my passport on it is correct and everything, and it's been identified. And then the machine refused to take my thumbprint. So what happens at that point?
No, that machine will not refuse to take your thumbprint. No. You see, it's just
machines can
compare.
falter.
It will just compare your fingerprint with the ones you did when you were registering.
Okay, let's take this call from Sam and then we'll continue. Sam is calling us from Furore. Sam, can you hear us? Hello, Sam.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, my name is Sam. I'm calling from Furore. Regarding this, your subject matter, INEC, voter registration and all that, I think INEC shouldn't be acting as if they know it all. You know, you have various feedback. We are down here. They are up there in Abuja. They should be listening to the masses. When they said INEC is 40 this way, they should be willing. You know, they should be willing to at least find solutions to what people are complaining about. Not sitting up there and thinking that their policy of voter card distribution will also the planet. No. That is why you have a feedback from your policy you are putting out there. Like this last one that happened in Delta State where I am, you have a situation where the very first day that program started, the information was very low. Yes, you could have NTA and all that. But you must know that most people now are on cable. Most people are on cable. Probably before the information starts coming out, a lot of people would want to swarm the polling unit at once. The crowd will be much for the few INEC staff on ground. So it will be difficult for this INEC staff on ground to allow this voter to be taken within one day for all the crowd around. You know? So I think where INEC is short of funds, They should involve state government. They should involve local government. I know it's costly to put this adult staff around to distribute this card. They should involve this local authority to get it done. 3 days is just not enough for voter card distribution. It's just not enough. Then when you said a backup policy is to an extent that you have to go to local government, please remember, a lot of people sell in shops. They do menial jobs to get food a day. You want them to abandon all that and go to local government headquarters? That will take you a whole day to go. How are you even sure if they go, they get their voter's card? So my point is, INEC, yes, you are trying, you are doing a lot. Please listen to the people down here who are having experience in the field and adjust your program and policy towards voter card collection. Quickly, let me just say this also. If permanent voter card is a full book, please, the idea of having to wait for once polling should be discarded. If permanent voter card is as credible as you are telling us, please let everyone who has a permanent voter card be able to vote wherever he is close to. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I want to say that earlier I said when we were talking about the additional polling units, I did say that INEC is going to look at the complaints of people. INEC is not averse to criticism. We are very ready to listen to criticism and to consider them and act as appropriate. You will discover that the distribution of permanent voters cards is in 3 phases. We have done 2 phases. When the first phase was done, all the inadequacies, the imperfections of the first phase were factored into the preparation for the second phase. And again, all the observed imperfections will also be factored into the preparation for the third phase, because the third phase includes Lagos and Kano that have the largest number of voters. Now, one other thing is that the distribution is not limited to 1 day. It started with 3 days. And what that means is that several people will go out, ad hoc staff, they go out to the polling units, each polling unit. Now we talked about some polling units not being more than 100, some 300, some 500, and so on and so forth. Within 3 days, this distribution should be, they should be able to complete that. But we said that beyond that, even after the 3rd day, when it has closed, and that is why it is being done Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so that people who go to work will be back at home during the weekend and be able to collect. Now, if you are not able to collect within those 3 days, you still have the opportunity of collecting later. All that you need to ensure is you check the list, the displayed list or register, to know whether your card has been produced or not. So that when the continuous voter registration will be starting 4 days after the completion of the polling unit distribution, then you can go and re-register so that your own card will also be produced.
One issue that Sam raised was the fact that a lot of people in the hinterland would have to travel far to the local government headquarters where the INEC office is to collect their voters' card. And it might be inconvenient for so many of poor Nigerians to travel that far, and so they might just abandon the...
And that is why we want to encourage them that when in their state the distribution starts, they should endeavor to go to their polling unit that is very close to them to ensure that they collect.
And he also made mention of the fact that not enough information went out, especially in his area in Delta State, for people to be informed that this is going to happen. So he said the INEC need to do more because it hindered so many people from collecting the cards.
Well, I think I agree with you if you feel that the information did not go around adequately. And that is why I said we are doing a lot in that direction. And again, we have encouraged a lot of stakeholders to also do some enlightenment like political parties, they are the ones looking for votes. If people don't have their panel cards, they cannot vote. So they too should do a lot in that direction.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on Code Digest. Our time is up and we'll have to round up here. Okay. Hope we'll have enough time next time to discuss some other issues that has to do with elections. And we do hope you oblige us the opportunity to be on Core Digest again. Thank you so much for coming. Our viewers, it's been Core Digest, and on this second segment, we've been talking with the resident electoral commissioner, Lagos State, Adekunle Ogunmola, on the furore over the additional 30,000 polling units created by INEC, and also we touched on the issue of the permanent voter cards. Hope you enjoyed our discussion. Do join us again tomorrow for another session on Core Digest. I am Martin Stickson, and have a nice day.
This is Judiciary Today.
The judiciary's function is to interpret the law.
The judge in Lagos State is perhaps one of the most comfortable judges in the world.
You don't say because we are fighting terrorists or we're fighting terror, then you go about violating people's rights. We're not going to allow that in this country.
So I think that's one of the reasons why some
that's what lawyers do.
I didn't say that what lawyers do.
The TV show that brings you in-depth review and analysis of judiciary issues that affect you.
Police officers to welcome victims with empathy and not say, what were you wearing? Where did you go? What were you doing at 10 p.m. at night?
As the Nigeria judiciary mounts one of their own.
He has gone to court on behalf of Nigerian citizens even without taking a cover.
It is time for lawyers to take their health very seriously, lawyers and judges.
Only on Core TV.